Well, we begin the day here in Europe with a grisly find in the waters off the Danish coast, a find that serves as a chilling reminder of the deadly risks that journalists take. Copenhagen police say DNA tests have confirmed that the headless torso, which washed ashore this week, is that of a missing Swedish reporter. Kim Wall was last seen alive earlier this month on assignment. Now, she was in Denmark to interview Peter Madsen, an inventor who has drawn global attention for his homemade submarine. Well, tonight, Peter Madsen is charged with the murder of Kim Wall. He denies any wrongdoing.
Danish police confirmed what many had long believed. The headless female torso that was recovered from the Baltic Sea on Monday was that of missing Swedish journalist Kim Wall. We have secured a handbrush and a toothbrush to ensure her DNA. We also found blood in the submarine, and there is a match. Miss Wall was reported missing by her boyfriend on August 11 after failing to return from an interview in Copenhagen with private submarine owner and inventor Peter Madsen. These images are said to show the pair leaving the port on Madsen's homemade vessel a day earlier. Madsen first told authorities that he had dropped off Wall on a Copenhagen island, but later changed the story, saying she had died in an accident and that he had buried her at sea. The same day Wall was reported missing, Madsen was rescued from a sinking submarine. According to authorities, he had intentionally destroyed the craft.
You okay?
I'm fine. A little sad, obviously. Seeing Nautilus go down was unfortunate, but oh well. Meanwhile, the submarine has been brought to the surface and been investigated. The autopsy found signs that the body had been weighed down with a metal object. Peter Madsen has been arrested on preliminary manslaughter charges. The cause of Kim Wall's death remains unknown.
Well, I'm joined now by Lotte Folke from Copenhagen. She's an anchor for the Danish TV current affairs show Deadline. Lotte, it's good to have you tonight with us on The Day. What more do we know tonight about the death of Kim Wall and the connection to Peter Madsen?
We don't know much more. The police hasn't said anything after they said that there was signs that the mutilated body was deliberately sort of weighed down with metal objects. Some people speculate that she was working on an article that she was going to try and sell to a magazine called Wired, but Kim Wall was working as a freelance journalist, so it's quite likely that she was working on this story, doing a portrait of Peter Madsen without actually being sent out by media in advance.
Talk to me, if you would, Lotte, about how this story is being reported there in Denmark.
So this has been dramatic and traumatic and shocking because the story started out very colorfully. The submarine was missing. There's a huge search for the submarine. Local fishermen were encouraged to participate. The whole country was following this, and the whole country was very relieved when it came up. And Peter Madsen came out and said everything is fine. And only after that did it become clear that something was still wrong. And then, since then, it seemed like one shocking revelation after another has come out. In the beginning, he said she'd just gotten off the submarine. Then it turned out that no, she had died in an accident. He said he'd buried her at sea. And then the mutilated corpse came up. So people have just been following this story with shock and horror.
Yeah, and it is much more than just a crime story or a murder story. The Committee to Protect Journalists today released a statement, and the statement reads that Wall's death on a seemingly low-risk assignment underscores the dangers that journalists face around the world every day. You started a feed on Twitter dedicated to Kim Wall. We want to show our viewers that. I mean, you tweeted, let's celebrate Kim Wall's work and listen to her voice. Why did you do that? Why was it important to you to have this Twitter feed?
Well, Kim Wall's work over the years, she was only 30, but she's done an amazing amount of reporting around the globe, was very much about giving voice to people who weren't heard. She's done amazing reporting in Haiti, in Myanmar, in Uganda, all over the world. And oftentimes, for instance, in Sri Lanka, she's been looking for voices from people whose voices were suppressed. And to me, as a journalist myself and as someone who was horrified by this, it felt very important to make sure that this story about Kim Wall didn't end up being told in the terms of whoever killed her, but in her own terms, so that we can honor, celebrate, and fortunately still read the wonderful reports that she's written and then can still be found on the internet.
And this is a story also that highlights the differences between men and women when it comes to threats and risks on the job when you're a reporter.
Yes, I mean, it's impossible not to think about that aspect. I mean, physically, she was a much smaller person than he is. And in some circumstances, in sheer physical circumstances, women are very exposed. It's also quite new for women to be as brave and traveling as widely as Kim Wall has done. So there are other dangers for men reporting. I've been a foreign editor and I've bought pieces from men and women. Sometimes women can access people in a different way and meet kindness in a different way than men. But there are situations in which being a female reporter is extremely dangerous. I think what's really horrifying about this story was that no one had thought that this would be one of those situations.
Yeah, and what about Peter Madsen? I mean, for our audience around the world, they may not be familiar with him. Is he a big name in Denmark and someone that you maybe could have described as being eccentric?
He's very eccentric. I'd say he's a cult figure. I've followed his work for quite a while. He's well known because he has done some amazing, very ambitious projects. He's working on building a rocket that's supposed to go into space, a manned rocket that's supposed to go into space, home-built and crowdfunded. And the same went for this submarine that they went out in. I think it was his fourth home-built submarine, and it's the largest homemade submarine in the world. So he's this inventor, a fascinating personality who has been covered many times by other journalists, but never in a way that could make one fear that something like this might happen.
Yeah. Lotte Folke from Copenhagen, anchor with the Danish TV current affairs show Deadline. Lotte, thank you very much for being on the day. We appreciate you sharing the story with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.